We are continuing and plowing through these movie reviews. And, it's like we're on number 5 of 13. Very specifically, one that is known somewhat in the of Alfred Hitchcock, but when I looked at how many people have given it a score, the IMDb, it's about 46,000. Very specifically, The Trouble with Harry from 1955. I have heard of this one, but I didn't know exactly what it was about until I just get curious. I'm like, all right, what is this one about? What is this? Well, no one really minds that Harry is dead. Everybody has a different idea about what should be done with his body in this quirky mystery starring Shirley McLaine and John Forsythe. And he looked exactly the same when he was alive, only he was vertical, says Jennifer Rogers, a character. This one's one of the few comedies that that Hitchcock ever did. I was surprised, and compared to the other ones where there were a bunch of big names attached, I was surprised to find out that there weren't too. I think the biggest name was John Forsythe, and it was also Shirley MacLaine's debut, surprisingly. And I'm like, so this is where she got her start before appearing on game shows, on Mama's Family, and whatever else she's famous for. It's like she's 90 years old, still acting. Got her start in an Alfred Hitchcock movie. That's trivia. By the way, that's trivia for you, Mike. So keep that in mind. Yeah, I enjoyed this one instead of like a I mean, there's still a mystery aspect, but this one more has to do with how like the disassembly of a small town and the people within it. Because it's like, oh, here's this body. Here's a whole bunch of people that are just wandering by his grave, but they don't notice him. If they do, they just seemingly ignore him because apparently everyone kind of has a little bit of an issue with him, And it's like, there he is, just out there in the middle of the field, just darkly funnily just sitting there. And it's like, what's going on? Well, it's the irony. When I've looked up, is that this was the irony of death. I noticed that Hitchcock uses irony in a lot of his films. It's like, just because this guy has been deceased, it's like, nope, they're going to. And keep in mind, this is 1950s humor, but it still works up. It's like, hey, let's bury his body. And then this captain's like, wait a second, did I count for all the bullets? Because I know I used one to kill a rabbit. I'm like, did I accidentally shoot him? So they dig his body back up and look, okay, that looks like it was blunt force trauma. Bury him, bring him up again. This happens 3 different times throughout the movie, So it's just the fact that all these lengths. And then we've got this small town in Vermont. And let's get all these characters who proclaim that they are disturbed by his death, but ultimately they're not. It's what's going on is like they all have their own personal interests, I guess. And it's like it's taken the irony of like, yeah, these people may appear prim and proper on the externally, but internally they are they can be some twisted people. Let's just say that. So, of course, this is based off a novel, and it's like, I mean, I genuinely like this. It's like, it's not as epic or as mysterious as Alfred's other movies, but it's just, you just have to see it. It's kind of delightfully perverse, just how far that they are going to go with just a person who is deceased, but they also handle it in just such a, like I said, a dark comedy way. You just gotta see, because this is more, because it's this narrative that works. I was paying attention to the narrative. It's like, yeah, you're going to have all the great set pieces and everything, but at the same time, you're just going to be like, I like the way how everything seems to be done. It's like you can tell that they all had a great time filming this, but at the same time, it's just so. I mean, even the Bernard Herrmann score where it gives an air of I would say a little bit of malice, but at the same time playful in an ironic way, you know. So it all adds to this mystery tinge and these interesting characters that I like. I mean, like when they're discussing it, like when they're bringing them out for the first time and just talking about like what was that, about roughly an, I don't know, an hour, like a little over an hour, like right around 50 minutes where they're digging it out. It's like they're having the reservations, but at the same time they're thinking about it again, leading to what could, like everyone had a claim in this. And of course there's some poetic dialogue about, you know, like small town G-rated innocuous things about like having blueberry muffins and coffee and tea and things like that. But that's just more of a subterfuge, if you will. So it's the cleverly written dialogue and how the characters have their own kind of darkness about them. I mean, there's a kid who's trading around deceased animals, like how he is always looking, I will trade you a frog for a rabbit. So there's this little sense of just the way how it works. It's just done in that Hitchcockian way that you just gotta laugh and watch. And of course, Shirley McLaine, who is one of the ladies that Hitchcock worked with, those two kind of became friends. You know, they went out for meals when they were offset. You know, they just got to be each other and know jovial. So this was what actually started her career. And it's like, yeah, you can see her talk about like how she knew Harry Wart and like how her trouble was. And then there's the artist who actually manages to paint sketch Harry, and it's like everything just intertwines towards the end. And I was like, they're each given their own moment, and I'm just like, okay, so we have the woman who appears prim and proper, but she's actually not that bad. And then you got a person who's running. You know, she's also running a store. You got the artist, and you got the captain. Everything it works out just so well. You just gotta like it. But again, this is a darkly funny story, so keep that in mind. At only 95 minutes, it is a little bit shorter than the ones that I've seen. You know, it's not exactly as well known as like Psycho or North by Northwest or Rear Window or Shadow of a Doubt, but you know, it's like this is one that I got some enjoyment out of, but at the same time I could see, you know, it's like it's the deconstruction of an ideal small town with some interesting characters. And I'm like, yeah, I could see why, because you know, it's based off a book. Hitchcock bought the rights to the novel as an anonymous purchaser, but the author never got the full amount that he was promised. So it was $11,000. And even in the 1980s, with the Hitchcock estate, when they managed to get everything done, the author himself said, yeah, I still haven't received my royalty, so maybe I'll read the book. I don't know. But anyway, if you want to see a darkly funny comedy that's, you know, it's not for everyone, but it's got some interesting characters and the debut of Shirley MacLaine, then I recommend that you watch The Trouble with Harry.